Bright Duty. Every student matters.
A doctor or a nurse is exposed to sick people every day. How do they avoid getting sick? Okay, so if I just told you, infectious diseases are caused if you are in such an environment, if you are close to the people who are suffering from it. So how do nurses and doctors they prevent the diseases? There can be two measures. First is personal health. By taking care of personal health, that means taking a balanced diet, taking good amount of vitamins and minerals on an everyday basis, and doing exercise every day. So this helps in boosting up your immunity, and you can fight off the infectious diseases with more vigor. The second measure can be immunization. That is by taking the vaccines against the diseases. So you can prevent these infections. Next question. Suggest the steps that could be taken in your locality to bring down the incidence of diseases. So I just told you infectious diseases can be prevented by keeping the surrounding clean. So as a society, it is the duty of all of us to keep our surroundings clean. What can be done to keep it clean? First of all, waste and garbage disposal. We should not allow the waste and garbage to pile up in open, because then it becomes the breeding ground for microbes and insects. Second is providing clean drinking water, because there are many waterborne diseases. If contaminated water is consumed, then it leads to certain diseases like amoebic dysentery. Third is removing stagnant water. If we allow water to get stagnant around us, it becomes breeding ground from mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are the carriers of many diseases like dengue and malaria. Next question. A baby cannot tell that he or she is sick. What would help us to find out that the baby is sick? If there is any kind of disease, then there are certain manifestations which leads to symptoms. If there is any symptom, then we know that some tissue or some organ is not functioning properly. So if we look to decide whether a person is having a disease or not, we look for symptoms. Examples of symptoms could be cough, headache, fever, some skin rashes, etc. So this helps us to decide whether a baby is sick or not. Next question. Under which of the following condition is a person most likely to fall sick? First, when he is recovering from malaria, he is likely to fall sick because during recovery the immunity is weak. Second, when he has recovered from malaria and is taking care of a person suffering from chickenpox. In this condition also the person is prone to have a disease. Reason being, he is close to a person who is having an infectious disease. So any kind of direct or indirect contact can actually make him sick. Third option, when he is on a 4-day fast after recovering from malaria and is taking for someone suffering from disease. So option C is the the person will be most prone to a disease because he's on fast. That means he's not eating nutritious food. That means his immunity is weak. Secondly, he's recovering from malaria. He just had an infection, so his body is weak. Thirdly, he's taking care of someone having chickenpox. That means he's close to a person, infected person. So there can be the disease can be transferred from that unhealthy person to a healthy person. So in this case, there are many factors in which can actually lead to a healthy person getting sick. Next question. Under which of the following situations are you most likely to fall sick? First, when you're taking examination. No, I don't think so. Although examinations give you some kind of anxiety or stress, but it will not make you sick. Second, when you have traveled by bus or train for 2 days, yeah, it can lead to tiredness or it can lead to some airborne diseases because you went to different places, but not really if your immunity is strong enough. Third, when your friend is suffering from measles, yes, I would choose option C, because measles is an infectious disease. It is highly communicable. It can be transferred from an unhealthy person to a healthy person through direct or indirect contact. So if your friend is suffering from measles, it is better to avoid any kind of direct or indirect contact. Next question. What are antibiotics? Antibiotics are the medicines which we give to the patients to kill the microbes. because in case of infectious diseases, microbes enter the body and disease can be treated only by killing them. So these medicines, they kill the microbes. There are many kinds of antibiotics available in the market and doctor decide which one will be suitable depending upon the kind of infection the body has. How do they work? They work by interfering the pathway, the bio life process of the microbes. By interfering the life processes, they eventually kill them. Next question, why antibiotics which are effective against bacteria are not effective against viruses? This is so because the pathway or the life processes of the bacteria are totally different from those of viruses. So if we have actually made an antibiotic which will affect the pathway of bacteria, it will not be effective against viruses because their pathways are totally different. That is the reason. Next question, explain the effect of antibiotic penicillin on bacterial cell. Penicillin actually was the first antibiotic which was discovered by Alexander Fleming. Okay, it blocks the biochemical pathway that builds the cell wall. So it has identified one specific pathway of the bacteria and it blocks it. So eventually the bacteria dies. Next question, why the human cells are not affected by the penicillin? The biochemical pathways of human cells are different from those of the bacteria. So these antibiotics, they interfere interfere the building of cell wall of the bacterial cell. This pathway is not there in the human cells. Okay, we do not build the cell wall. That is why it will not affect the human cells. So such antibiotic target only the infection causing pathogens. Next question, why is it difficult to make antiviral medicines? As you know that viruses, they are on the borderline of living and non-living. They do not have any life processes of their own. They utilize the cell structure of the host in which they enter and they use that cellular structure for their growth and reproduction. So that is why we do not have any antiviral medicine because we cannot target their pathways. Next question, why is it important to know the life processes of the pathogen? The scientists, they study the life processes of the pathogen. So by studying these life processes, they are able to actually invent new kind of antibiotics which will interfere with these pathways. Next question, briefly describe the principle of treatment of disease. So principle of treatment of disease can be divided into two categories. First is to reduce the effect of disease. For example, by taking bed rest. By taking bed rest or by having light food, we are conserving our energy to fight the disease. And secondly, the symptomatic treatment. That is treating the symptoms. If a patient is having cough or fever, the doctor prescribes them medicine to treat those symptoms. So one is the symptomatic treatment or to reduce the effects of the diseases. The second is actually treating the causative organisms. The disease can be cured only by killing the organism which has caused it. So for this, antibiotic medicines are being prescribed. Next question, what are the factors which decide the type of treatment to be given to the patient? So what kind of treatment will be given to the patient is decided by the doctors. It depends upon, first is the type of microorganism. So if it is virus, the doctors do not prescribe antibiotics. If it is a bacterial infection, doctor will prescribe an antibiotic. If it is a fungal infection, doctor might prescribe a local antifungal cream. So it depends upon the type of microorganisms which has caused the disease. Second is the organ or the tissue which is affected. So the tissue or the organ has to be restored back to the normal. Accordingly, medicine is given. Third is the symptoms of the disease. So whatever the symptoms, medicines are given to treat those symptoms. So these are three factors which actually determine what kind of treatment is to be given to the patient. Next question, what is an antigen? An antigen is a toxin or a foreign substance which induces an immune response in the body. That is the production of antibodies. So when an antigen enters our body, so it is a toxic substance, it is a foreign, so our body starts preparing antibodies to fight it off. Okay, so sometimes what happens in during vaccination, some antigens are deliberately injected into the body to start off this immune response. Next question, what do you understand by immunization? Okay. During immunization, what happens? An antigen like a deactivated microbe or a killed microbe, they are injected into the body. This will initiate immune response of our body, and body will start preparing antibodies. So whenever in future, if there is actual infection, the body will fight that infection with more vigor because antibodies are already there. This whole process is called immunization. Why we are advised to take bland and nourishing food when we are sick? So when we are sick, our body is actually recovering by making antibodies and by fighting off the infection. So if we take bland and nourishing food, we are helping our body to fight off those infections. We are conserving our energy, because if you take heavy food full of fats and carbs, the more of energy will be utilized in digesting that food. Okay, so by taking light and nourishing food, we are helping our body to fight off those infection and to boost the immunity of our body. Next, last question is, what are the various means by which infectious diseases are spread? Infectious diseases are communicable. They can spread from an infected person to a healthy person. So how do they spread? First is by direct contact, that is from infected person to a healthy person. Direct contact means like if you're shaking hand, or if he's standing in front of you and he's sneezing or coughing, that microbes can enter through air, or by sharing the utensils, sharing towel, like such things. So infectious diseases can get transferred. Another could be indirect transmission, that is through intermediate agents, like through animal bites or through mosquitoes, through flies. I have taken up these in detail in my previous video. How do diseases get transferred from an infected person to a healthy person? So these were some of the important questions from this chapter. I hope it's all clear to you. Thank you.